What is the one thing that we humans cannot live without? I know what you must be thinking. What an existential question to ask on a Sunday evening, but bear with me. So what's that one thing that we cannot live without? A lot of you may say water, some may say food, even air, electricity. Those are the basic ones. But ask the younger generation or even millennials and you may get a different answer. They might say it's the internet. Which brings us to the headline. US President Joe Biden has unveiled a high-speed internet initiative. It is worth $42 billion. It's huge. What he wants is internet access for every person in America.
Kamala and I are making an equally historic investment to connect everyone in America to high-speed internet by an affordable high-speed internet by 2030. It's the biggest investment in high-speed internet ever. Because for today's economy to work for everyone, internet access is just as important as electricity was, or water, or other basic services.
You heard that. Biden says internet access is as important as water or electricity. But is it really? Should access to the internet be universal? Is the right to internet a human right? And more importantly, why should you care? Hello and welcome. I'm Palki Sharma, and on this show we'll try to read between the lines, the stated and the unstated, the obvious and the hidden, to bring you the full story. January 1st, 1983, that's the birthday of the internet, at least the official one. The origin, however, can be traced back to the 1950s. It was the time of the Cold War. The US was scared of Soviet attacks. It wanted a solid communication system, one that the Soviets could not destroy. So that was the idea. You see, computers in the 1950s were heavy. They were huge and static, not the sleek devices that we have today. So many thought that these devices should be linked. The idea first came from the US Defense Department. They saw the potential. They wanted to create a larger computer network. Enter the ARPANET. It's what led to the internet that we use today. So that was the history. But we're not here to talk about the past. We're here to talk about the future. In 2016, the United Nations made a declaration. It wanted online freedom to be protected. It said it considers the internet to be a human right. So the first question here is, what exactly is a human right? Human rights are rights that belong to all human beings, regardless of race, sex, nationality, ethnicity, language, religion, or any other status. These are basic freedoms we need to lead meaningful lives. They're not granted by any state, they're universal. This includes the right to life, right to equality, right to water, right to private property, right to a healthy environment, and now perhaps right to the internet. The UN statement faced some resistance, though. It came from countries like China, and no surprises there. No one likes suppressing internet freedom like Beijing does. But it also raised a very fundamental question. Is the internet a right or a privilege? You see, rights are for all. Privileges, on the other hand, are only for some. Special perks for a select group, that's a privilege. Traditionally, the internet was seen as a privilege, but not anymore. As the world became more connected, the internet became more crucial. It turned into an essential commodity. A survey talked to 27,000 people in 26 countries. Do you know what they said? 79% believe internet is a right. 4 out of 5 want universal access, and that's an overwhelming majority. Honestly, it's hard to imagine life without the internet now. We depend on it for practically everything: work, food, socializing, shopping, travel, entertainment, you name it, and we start scouring the web. Take the pandemic, for example. Can you imagine surviving it without the internet? Employees were working from home, governments were issuing advisories on social media, students were learning online. The pandemic taught us how crucial the internet is. It's not a luxury, it's a lifeline. Digitization is the new buzzword. Countries are racing to provide internet to all, yet many still don't have it. 2.9 billion people in our world have never used the web. That's 37% of the world population. Imagine that, 37% of the globe has not used the internet. Does this mean they don't have access to it? Well, that's part of the reason. The other part is a lot of these people still don't know how to use it. Which brings us to another question. Should the internet be a binding human right? One section of people says yes. They call it absolutely crucial. But there's another group that disagrees. They say it could hinder achievement of other human rights like food and electricity. Imagine a scenario where someone doesn't have water. They don't have power, but they have the internet. Then there's a third argument. It says the internet is an ancillary right. What does that mean? Well, you first have your basic human rights like food, water, electricity, right to expression, etc. And then you have ancillary rights. They support basic human rights. They're important, but they're not essential. So these are the arguments. But before we debate whether the internet is a human right or not, we also need to understand who controls it. Is the internet truly equal for all of us? Have you heard about digital colonialism? You know colonialism. When one country exploits the resources of another, they plunder and loot and profit. Digital colonialism works exactly in the same fashion, using the tech ecosystem to plunder and profit. And who are the colonizers? Well, Silicon Valley corporations, the likes of Google and Facebook, the so-called big tech, they control the internet and they dictate the rules. And which are the colonies? The global south, the developing world. Tech corporations are expanding across the globe. Their biggest markets are these developing nations. They extract data from us, they profit from us. But where does this data and profit go? To the West, to the United States. In today's world, data is power, and who controls this data? The West does. Who controls the internet? The West does. It's a system that enables exploitation, almost like the railways in British India. On paper, the idea sounded great. You build a system that boosts connectivity and growth. But were they really built to benefit India? The railways were built for exploitation. The British were not doing us charity. They did it for their own profit. Entire villages were raised for railroads, the taxes were paid by Indians, and they sold it to us as a gift. Digital colonialism is the same, and countries must stand up to it. Push for the system to be redesigned. You see, the internet is a very powerful tool. It's also a double-edged sword. In the right hands, it can be used for good, but in the wrong hands, it can be very dangerous. But then again, is this an argument against the right to access? Well, no, it's not. People should get access to the internet, although I'm not sure about it being called a human right just yet.